November 7th, 2021. I couldn't sleep the night before, so I call my mom at 7 in the morning asking if I can come over. I get to my parents' house, my mom opens the door, she asks if I'm okay. All I can get out is, no, and I just start crying. And she hugs me and she's holding me while I'm crying. And after a little while, I manage to get out. It's really over. Me and Jane are over. My mom is a Filipino mom. No matter what's going on, she wants me to be well fed. That's right. So she makes me my favorite breakfast, scrambled egg, mushroom, tomato, rice. We're sitting at the kitchen table and I continue. I tell her, I ended it and I still love her. My mom says, this was a long time coming. You had to decide when to end it, and I know it's hard. And it was hard. I met Jane on Bumble in the early days of COVID. It was early summer of 2020, before we could all get vaccinated, and so that meant a lot of Zoom dates, a lot of just talking. And on one of these conversations, we're just sharing about our childhood stories, and I'm telling her how about when I was little, I really loved to play pretend. And I asked my mom to play pretend too, and some days the kitchen was a diner, the living room was a grocery store. I could be Darkwing Duck, you remember, jumping from couch to couch. But one of my favorite characters to pretend to be was the Pink Panther. The animal, not the detective. And to become the Pink Panther, I would take this hot pink shoelace that I had and loop it through my back belt loop on my pants, and I would just kind of run around, not really caring about anything. Except one day, my parents saw me doing this out in public, and in that exasperated, hushed whisper that parents have, they were like, what is that? Embarrassed. They told me I couldn't do it anymore, and I got in trouble, so I stopped, and the Pink Panther never really came out ever again. Jane and I, the first time we meet up in person on a date, we go to a park, we're walking through these gardens, and she stops and says, I have a gift for you. I feel terrible because I have nothing, I haven't brought anything. What's she going to give me? And she smiles and she asks me to open up my hand, and she takes this thing out of her bag and she puts it in my hand, and I take a look at it and it's a hot pink shoelace, kind of coiled up. And she looks at me with these big hazel eyes of hers and says, no one should ever have to lose their childhood. Yeah. And my heart starts racing, and it's also melting. And I can't believe how thoughtful this girl is. I say thank you. It's an amazing gift, and I put it in my pocket. A few months go by, and we get closer. Lots more Zoom conversations lasting hours. She likes poetry, and she shares her works in progress with me. I'm a songwriter, and I share my works in progress with her, and we become supportive of each other too. And near the end of summer, I tell her, I'm going to do it. I'm going to come out and leave the church that I've been working at for 7 years as music director, but I'm really nervous about it. I have this coming out letter that I've written that I want to read, I've just held on to it for months. And she wants to help me. And so on a Zoom, she helps me practice. I pull out the letter and I read it out loud. And I read it fine, but still I wonder, what if I can't go through with this? It's okay, she says. You've been working towards this for a long time. You can do this. I've grown up Christian, religious schools from preschool through high school, and after I graduated college, I got hired to work part-time at this Filipino church as their music director, and it was a job that I sometimes couldn't believe was a job. On Sundays when I would conduct the choir, one of my favorite things to see was how animated they would get singing. And leading worship, I loved looking out on the congregation, seeing people sing so earnestly. The problem was, I was closeted. And after so many years of hiding who I was, I just couldn't take the self-erasure anymore. Back when I started working there, I was dating a different girl, and I could see myself doing these small things to hide the real me. At rehearsal, I would turn my phone over on the music stand so that no one could see the picture of us on my lock screen. And when someone would ask me what I did on the weekend, instead of saying, I watched a movie with my girlfriend, I would say, I watched a movie. It's little things like that that really add up, and they eat at your sense of self. But during the pandemic, I saw this window to come out to the pastor and his wife and to finally resign. On an afternoon in August, I meet up with them. We're in the fellowship hall in the church basement. We're making small talk. And I tell them I have something that I need to share. And I pull out the coming out letter. And I read it out loud to them, just like I'd practiced with Jane. I finish reading, I look up, and I see that the pastor's wife is crying. And that's when it hits her and it hits me that this is real. I am leaving. She goes on to say, it must have been hard sitting in the pews. And she's talking about all the times that the pastor had sermons that were anti-same-sex marriage. And she continues, she says, I have a relative that's gay and I love them, but my family and I can't accept their lifestyle. The pastor, he hasn't really said much up until this point, but eventually he does say, we love you with the love of the Lord. But we believe in God's plan for heterosexual marriage. And there it was. This example of how love can hurt. It's the I love you, but that says part of you is unacceptable, and that supporting you goes against a deeply held personal conviction. I ask for my last Sunday to be in 2 weeks. I tell them I don't want to come out to everyone, just the two of them. My mom would have me shout it from the rafters, but I'm not ready to do that just yet. My last Sunday there, it's a relief, but it's also sad to say goodbye. This is a place I've worked at for 7 years. These people are like my family. This is not a place where I refer to people as Mr. or Mrs. so-and-so. I call them my titos and my titas like they're my aunts and uncles. And as the service goes on in my mind, I'm telling myself, this is the last time I'll stand on the altar. This is the last time I'll lead worship. This is the last time we'll sing together. And after the end of service, the choir and the worship team sing me songs. And they are all so sweet. And as I'm pulling out of the parking lot afterwards, it all feels so bittersweet. Yes, I am finally free to be more me, but I'm also really losing something. After leaving, I realized this is the first time in my adult life that I really have a choice. What kind of faith community do I want to be a part of? I can actually find a place where I truly belong, a place that accepts all of me and not just part of me. I also start to take a hard look at the Christian beliefs that I grew up with. If people were wrong about the whole being gay being a sin thing, what else were they wrong about? And I feel like this is a good place to rest, but I can see that Jane, the more that I talk with her, she's just not good with where I'm at. And we break up the first time because I don't know what to do with Jesus. But we don't want to lose each other completely either, so we decide to try to be friends. But that makes just things worse for me. After a few months, we're catching up in person. We do this a couple of times, but each time that I see her, the feelings just come rushing back. And I just reach a point where I have to tell her. So I ask to meet her at a park. We're walking down the path and we're catching up. And then she tells me she's starting to see someone new. And immediately I feel a sharp clawing pain in my chest. And it's all I can do to say, "That's great." But inside, I'm telling myself, I gotta say what I need to say right now. And so I tell her, I gotta talk to you about something. We find a swing set to sit at, and I just say all of it. I tell her I haven't really let her in on how my spiritual journey has been going because it's so tied to our breakup. I tell her I do feel a shift in my beliefs, but I'm still trying to figure out what to do with Christianity, what to do with Jesus. To her, Jesus is just a man. Christianity is just not for her, and she knows that. She says we can't work because she can't give me that kind of freedom to explore, and she wants to give this new person a chance. I confess some other things, that I'm still in love with her, that I can't just be her friend, that I'm feeling so stuck while she's moving on, and I need a real separation. I tell her, I love you, but I must also love myself. And she realizes this is the real goodbye. She asks to have a moment, and she starts to cry, and she tells me she loves me too, but this is probably the right thing to do. I get up from my swing, I go over and I hug her. We've known each other for a year and a half, and this is actually the first time we've held each other just as we're saying goodbye. Yes, I loved her and she loved me, but we just don't fit. We need different things. My mom is still listening. She says, the love was real. You did the right thing. It always hurts when it ends. 7 years ago, when I came out to my mom, she accepted me, but it wasn't like flipping a light switch. For 2 years after I told her, she still struggled a little bit and would ask God why I had to be gay. This is not something she told me, though, until much later. This is the same woman who would later want to raise hell at the people at the church that I left for being unaffirming, who would now tell anyone that there's nothing wrong with who I am or who I want to love. I remember that I wrote some lyrics for a song a few days before, a song that is about love ending. And in my heart, I know it needs to be in Tagalog, which is the national dialect of the Philippines. I don't actually speak Tagalog, but I do know some songs in it, and something happens when I sing in it. I just feel more me. I feel like I can be as earnest as I want to be. And so I pick up a guitar that's lying around the house. And I sit down at the kitchen table and I show my mom the lyrics on my phone and I ask if she can translate them for me. And without hesitation, she gets out a piece of notebook paper and a pen, and she starts to translate me and my pain onto the page. Over the course of 7 years, my mom has battled her own doubt, her own set beliefs from growing up Catholic. Because of love, she really sees me, and I feel seen. Over the past 7 years, she's become a champion for me, her gay daughter, and that morning at the kitchen table, she became my co-writer. She shows me the translation when she's done, and she says each line out loud so that I can hear how to pronounce the words. And I sit with the lyrics in front of me for a bit, and I try to piece together the verse and the chorus, just the melodies bit by bit as they come to me. And she switches up a word here and there to make it easier for me to sing. And back and forth it goes until I'm able to sing it all the way through the way that I like it. She titles the song Buksan ang pusong nasaktan, which means open a broken heart. And when I finally feel like I've got it, I sing it through a couple times, and she tears up, and she tells me it's beautiful. Ang ating pag-ibig manatili sa akin kahit anong mangyari. Ang mga bituin ay liliwanag kahit ipikit ko ang aking mga binigyan mo ako ng liwanag para mabuhay, para yakaping hantadhana. Sa kabuuan niya, binigyan mo kaya ako ng gabay sa kahit wala na tayo sa isa't isa, manatili ka sa aking alaala na ang pusong nasaktan palang araw mabubuksan. Kahit wala na tayo sa isa't isa, manatili ka sa aking alaala na ang pusong nasaktan balang araw mabubuksan. Thank you.